Everyone's prepared their happy dance just in case.
Yeah.
I'm just
Gonna
gonna
go wake up all the other watches. You missed
Yes.
it.
Yeah, we'd have
Have
to.
Pavel sound the alarm.
Yes, we want it on our watch.
Sorry, we can't muster. We're looking at an airplane.
Don't you wake up wondering if you've missed anything?
Oh,
I do,
I did
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah,
Yesterday
it's a huge
morning.
fear. You walk into the mess and there it is. I mean, you want it to be there,
Yeah, of course.
but
Yeah.
I'd be very happy if that happened. Boy,
I
I'd be
always, when I
happy.
walk up to the lounge or the mess, I'm wondering if there's like a hushedness, if it's like, oh, they know something I don't know, and we've seen something.
Right.
Or it's just business as usual, and we're still looking.
I'm definitely really excited to see what 06 was.
Soon enough.
Soon enough.
Especially given the amazing footage that Petrol was able to get at the Lexington site. And, you know, just want to get
Yeah, there's
be
a good
put in
chance
a similar position.
that it'll, I mean, that this deep, it will look just as good.
It's the same era and about the same depth. Well, 1938 to 1942.
Right.
Not that big
How
a
long did it
difference.
take to find
Yeah, there's-
Lexington? Was that a...
Oh, for me, I'm the one who actually found it, and then the records went over to the Navy, and we think the Navy gave our records. I did it for NOAA.
What?
And then they declared that part of the Pacific and historic area, so I have a letter from NOAA saying your work resulted in that part of the Pacific being an historic area, and then we're supposed to go out with the Aussies to find it. The Australia very interested in the Battle of the Coral Sea because they feel that that battle saved them from being occupied by the Japanese. So they pushed through their ambassador in Washington for the expedition to go out there, but the U.S. Navy kind of ran out of funds for exploration.
Oh.
So Paul Allen beat us to it.
And that was probably Al at NOAA who had an interest in that?
I worked with James Delgado
Oh, yeah.
and Russ with this with that project. That was the longest project I ever worked on because I had to reconstruct the battle and pull all the ship's logs.
So how close was the actual location to
Right
your
on,
suggestion?
right
Really?
on.
Wow.
Wow, that's impressive.
That was very exciting.
So
I was thrilled that they had found it, but sort of disappointed too because
You got scooped?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
But you want the things to be found.
He
So-
found the Indianapolis too, right?
Yeah.
Pretty shortly
Yeah.
after, or was that right
That
before?
was before.
Right before. And then he's found the Hornet as well.
Yeah.
Actually, fun tidbit, just to add on, Paul Allen also, like the CS department that I'm a part of is named after and dedicated for Paul
that's
Allen
cool.
because he has funded it so heavily.
Yeah,
So-
there's a lot of Seattle things that are Paul Allen
Yeah.
funded.
Now he's
Experience
no
Music
longer
Project,
alive. Now
Seattle
Yeah.
Seahawks. His sister's running the organization, Vulcan.
Okay.
Right.
But it's really fascinating seeing like so many different sides of him.
So
The
Lonnie
video
did get-
engineer that just left here, Wayne, previously worked for Vulcan and worked on those vessels.
Oh, that's cool.
Paul Allen was also involved in the X Prize.
Yep.
But Lonnie deserves credit for finding it.
yes,
Yes.
all credit to Lonnie.
Well, it's funny, the state of Virginia, they were going to make I don't know what you call it in the legislature, not a,
A proclamation.
yeah, something like that, about that.
They should.
About you?
Yeah,
Sign in the-
actually being the one.
Yeah, that's kind of like,
Yeah. Let's make it Lonnie Day.
yeah, that's a bit of like, they,
You know, but as the researcher, you just swallow it in the back. At least you enabled somebody else to do it.
yeah, but they should credit you.
You're,
They should have said they gave you, You essentially found the coordinates and they looked there and they found it. Not
Yeah, I reconstructed. I did all the work.
Not we found this thing.
You know, it's when you work for an organization, though, they always take credit. You don't get it, so it's like that. At least in architecture, that's what it's that way. You can do the drawing that wins the prize that's exhibited, but your boss's name is on it.
I saw lots of plaques around the world, but the vessel of the world, but I didn't see one for architects anywhere. It's often unsung. Although there's some architects that get like the Paul Allen funded building in Seattle, the Experience Music Project, was a Frank Gehry building.
And IMPay.
Yeah. I was just in Munich, and the BMW Works and the museum are both beautiful, amazing buildings. The museum is a phenomenal space. Just a fantastic use of space. Highly recommend if you like architecture.
I mean, you live in architecture. It's like wearing your clothes. You have to be aware of it.
There's a great television program. I hardly ever get to watch television. But it's two architects that travel around the world looking at amazing buildings. And they can be just residences or whatever, and great use cases and fantastic innovations to meet those needs. Yeah, always appreciated great architecture.
Yeah. So Lonnie, when you were recreating that battle, did you just have kind of what I envision like the old school, or like from like a cartoon or movie, a big map and somebody like pushing the little wooden ships?
I think it's more just a bunch of separate logs that you have to go through and mentally track them against one another, yeah?
Exactly. So, but it was kind of like a map where you're moving the ships around. Because if you don't have the configuration, you can't understand the battle. The Japanese actually started to land on the USS Lexington because this was the first battle in U.S. naval history between, ships.
Carriers?
Yeah, that didn't even ever see each other. So the planes didn't even recognize their own carrier and started to land on the Lexington, and someone on the Lexington recognized what was happening and started shooting at them.
Oh boy.
But in the beginning, we lost 3 ships in that battle, and one was the USS Neosho, which was the oiler, and because it had such a long deck, they thought that was the aircraft carrier, and they bombed that first. It's interesting, but oilers are named after U.S. rivers. I thought in the beginning USS Neosho, that sounds Japanese.
Oh, yeah.
But they're named after rivers. And we also lost the USS Sims, which was protecting the Neosho.
So have all the wrecks from that battle been found?
No, I don't think
no.
the other 2 have, but aircraft carrier was the most important. If it hadn't been for this particular battle, Midway would have had a different outcome because we disabled the Japanese in the Battle of the Coral Sea. Midway had a totally different outcome.
There's a Japanese aircraft carrier up by Midway that other organizations may or may not have tried to reach, but it's so far from Honolulu that you then can't get back.
Some weird looking rocks on the left.
Do you want me to?
The one on the port side?
Yeah, the port.
Yeah, might as well.
Okay.
Something to look at later. Go look at the images. Is that 37?
36.
36?
Oh, sorry. I thought I said that on SPL.
36. And it's, how many off to port?
About 190.
90 to port.
Did you do any research on like submarines that sunk, Lonnie? Like during the war?
No, I
Torpedoes?
didn't, but Jim Delgado, I think, wrote a book about
And then can you give me a
submarines.
description for that one?
And, well, yes, actually, there were kamikaze submarines. So the Japanese had these little tiny submarines that they'd get torpedoes. Torpedoes that look like submarines, but they were torpedoes that they'd get in.
There was a mini sub that was sunk in Pearl Harbor, or captured. I think it was sunk, and it's on display somewhere. Is that right?
I don't
Do you
know.
remember that right? At Pearl Harbor.
So NOAA found a couple years ago were you aware of the U-576, the submarine they just found pretty recently off of North Carolina? So I got contracted with this company, Project Baseline, and they have another name, and we went out and we got the contract to dive on it in subs and like those Triton submarines. So I was working as a sub tech on it.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we got to do, like, it was really great. We set up this whole LBL system, which is long base line system, to get like a really good map area of it. And then we integrated this like laser scanning camera thing to get really good photogrammetry of it. But we got like halfway done and we did like 3 dives, and then a hurricane came.
Oh.
So we had to go into port in Morehead City because it was off North Carolina. And then we like ran out of the funding, was kind of up, but that was pretty cool to see the footage of that. I've got some cool pictures.
Nautilus dove on 2 U-boats in the Gulf of Mexico as well.
Cool.
I can't remember their numbers, but I was on one of those cruises.
Were they like recent finds, or did they like know where they were? They just had
No, one was scuttled.
Okay.
It was like captured and then scuttled, and I think that's the shallow one. That was the one that I was on for, and then the other one was in the Gulf of Mexico a little bit more. The first one was a little more towards Florida, I think. Towards the Tortugas.
Anybody ever read the book Shadow Divers?
I was just going to talk about that.
About off the coast.
Yeah.
Was headed to.
And what are their names? It's John Chatterton and Richie Kohler or something like that?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Or the divers. If you're a scuba diver, it's a great read no matter what.
They're on that sub was on its way to blow up the Verrazano Bridge.
Yep. And that book is widely regarded, especially if you've never heard an audiobook, as the best audiobook.
Wait, so
the reader.
Kind of sum it up. What is it?
The book is called Shadow Divers.
Right.
As is the audiobook. And it's 2 principal players are technical scuba divers, diving trimix out of New Jersey, who enjoy finding things on the bottom and diving on them. And they end up finding something and becoming obsessed with it and solving a historical mystery that was a pretty important, noteworthy event in World War II.
Cool.
Yeah.
So this is during what era was it during?
This is modern. This is 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
So they did it all and then they wrote a book.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I have so many
and
books.
then there's a sidecar project on that, Lonnie, regarding the dentist and his son. There's a book about that entire dive called The Last Dive. That's told kind of in a different voice, but related to shadow divers.
Oh, I'll find that. I think those books are fascinating.
Oh, I love those.
And I've got to read so many. Ship of Gold, I've heard, is really good.
Ship of Gold in the Deep Blue Sea. There's a copy on board that I provided to the boat.
I downloaded a digital thing, but I do like a paperback.
You have probably unknowingly sailed with one of the ROV techs from Ship of Gold in the Deep Blue Sea. Yeah.
You just blew her mind.
Yep. He works at APL.
Do you know his name, or are you just like not wanting
Yeah, but
to?
I'm not saying it because
We'll talk later.
they recently were. the guy who funded it and didn't fund it, the guy who ran the operation found all the gold and then ran away with it all.
Some interesting
Just
targets
recently
here.
got caught, and this guy was one of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit against him, and
It's
they just
still
got
going
a bit
on,
of a
isn't
settlement.
it?
Yeah, but
Like it's.
but there's, and so I don't want to.
Yeah. Don't.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
But also, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited to read it.
Yeah,
I heard it's really
but
awesome.
he,
It's like the longest going lawsuit for maritime.
Yeah,
law.
and
These are some
he
interesting
works at
targets here. Do you
he
think?
works at UWAPL,
I don't
and he
like
works
the one
on
to the
RSN.
port, but maybe that one.
And he's my age
Okay.
and much taller.
I'm gonna let it go for a second to see what that is.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly.
All right.
Yeah.
Pretty big shadow behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get this one.
Okay. Target 37.
Oh. Something else
This is
to the right.
50 to start.
80.
Or sorry, 80.
80 to starboard.
It's close to another target we have.
Another mania target.
So they're definitely grouped together.
Yeah.
But yeah, and there's it's close to another one we had on the previous line. So there could be a bit of a target field there. I'm kind of intrigued by that bit that's in view right now.
It's a bunch of unusual things in one place, yeah.
If like you erase a bit of that heave, imagine the shape of
Okay.
it.
You're good on that one?
Yeah, I wrote down large bars, stretch
Yeah.
shadows, field of targets.
That's fine. Rennie, do you want us to mark this one too?
It's okay to not mark it because it's such close
It's
vicinity.
in the same. Yeah,
But
we'll go over it
just
again
like noting
anyways.
that image is kind of,
Can
Yeah.
you
So-
note?
there's a few in that area.
Okay. Hey, can you put a star by that? Say that we saw some more.
I'd venture to say that it was part of the same cluster, whether it's something we're looking for or rocks, but the same as the target 34,
I
kind of
think
in
so.
that region.
We can pull that up real quick. Oh, yeah. Dee Dee had showed me that before
Yeah,
they
imagine
went
the
off.
heave lines being straight. So you can see the green and the red lines. That's what the computer is figuring is the
Yeah.
the heave.
Okay. Then I'll also just note possible overlap with target 34 and 37. That was interesting.
Yeah, those were some of the most interesting targets I've seen so far, I think.
Could someone explain the process after we maybe through tonight we're still mowing the lawn after that then, or during this process these targets are being processed on a computer down in the lab to fine-tune the images, or what happens?
Yeah, I think Mike Brennan will be, with any luck, will be processing some of this through some software meant for that, and hopefully kind of get a sense, see if we can tidy up some of these targets and what they look like, and kind of place them out on a map, you know. It depends. It seems like we're going to keep completing the south end of this survey, and I think a decision will be made about mapping the north end, or perhaps going over some of these targets at different directions again. Possibly visualizing them with Argus camera, but that's all to be discussed, I think, with a lot of the project leads. At least that's my understanding of how this will continue.
You are correct.
Yeah, it's a trade-off because you know we have limited time out here. For those watching, we have about a week out here, and you want to cover a lot of ground. But if the targets, if there's nothing that's a clear, you know, this is absolutely the shape of a plane, you know, something like that, then it's do we cover more ground and try to locate, or do we try to look at potential targets we've already assessed, see what's most promising? I think that's a trade-off that, yeah, it's a difficult decision. Yeah, we didn't see anything. That was right between the lines, but we didn't really see anything in Argus cam as we were going by that would, not even a rock or anything. So yeah.
That's big.
Yeah,
that is big.
Pretty.
It's
pretty
interesting
nice.
that the shadow is before.
Well, it's like sunk in a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a moat, perhaps.
Huh.
That could be target 34. No, that's too far out. I think that's worth noting.
Okay.
If you do it, Megan.
That's fine.
This will be target 38.
Why not?
Better err on the side of caution.
Yeah. 70 to starboard.
70 to starboard.
Starboard.
Roger.
Roger.
Roger, Roger.
What's your vector, Victor?
Captain under over.
My dad says you're Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Listen, kid. Some years ago, I'm almost positive this is like within the last 2 years. I was on, I'm pretty darn sure it was United Airlines. And their safety video, everyone's trying to one-up. Yeah, it wasn't really funny, but it was a bunch of team members in all different positions delivering the lines. And at one point, they're in the cockpit, and the pilot is kind of turned around in his seat as the co-pilot's over there, and he's saying, and remember, keep your seatbelt faster, da-da-da-da-da. And the co-pilot, towards the end of this sentence, kind of turns around and gives a nod to the camera, and it's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they don't say anything about it. They don't have his name. He doesn't have a line.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's just there.
It's just one of those. Those are the best cameos.
Yeah.
There's not that great of a film where I think it was Robert Redford was a bazillionaire who is in Las Vegas, and there's a couple honeymooning, and he gives the husband $1 million if the wife will have dinner with him or something.
Yeah.
And so he ends up flying her out to his yacht in the middle of Lake Mead or something. And he's walking around, and they're having a beverage and just talking. And there's this nice piano music playing. And he walks by, and there's actually a guy playing the piano. And he just kind of gives him a nod, and the guy nods back. And they don't say anything about it. He's having a conversation with this woman, blah, blah, blah. But the guy playing piano is Herbie Hancock.
Huh.
And it's like, okay, that's rich.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
That's next level.
Doesn't say this is who's playing, you know, just that's how you do those cameos well, is you don't say anything about it.
Dr. Megan, we have Eric from Intrepid.
Ooh.
Oh.
Check it in.
Hi, Eric. I'm so glad you're listening.
He's asking about any promising airplane shapes that you may have seen yet.
We have not found anything promising yet in terms of, holy crap, that's an airplane.
Right.
But we have found a couple of promising targets, and we're looking forward to revisualizing those in the near future. How's
Right.
everything over there at the Intrepid?
There's a target coming through in the mezzo. I don't know if we'll catch it visually on Argus, but we'll certainly see it in the
Rennie, are we
side
doing
scan.
better at these turns? Are they taking less time now, it seems like?
Yeah, I think we're honing it in. I think I have a decent method co-developed by Dan and perfected by Vitali.
Yeah.
Vitali knows this ship like back of his hand.
This is about the speed at which he used to download a picture on the internet.
So there's the target that was in the mezzo that's now coming up.
Oleg?
So just as a sidebar, actually Intrepid Museum and I and others are currently working on an exhibit on underwater archaeology, and that will be online at the end of, sorry, it won't be online, that will be exhibited at Intrepid in May of 2021. Yeah.
You hoping to be able to add a Simone Clipper to that exhibit?
I'm not quite sure. We still are looking at the scope of things, but we're looking at examples of all kinds of underwater mysteries and what it took to solve them, and using archaeology to kind of solve these mysteries or shed new light on these objects. And it's going to be a very interesting exhibit. So planes, submarines, airships, commercial jets, space rockets, all of the above have been found underwater.
Yeah, it's kind of luckily for the entire field that the deep sea has become a bit of a area of interest for those with a lot of resources.
Correct, yeah.
Jeff Bezos going and getting, was it the Apollo rockets he recovered?
Yeah, the Saturn
Yeah.
V rockets, F1 engines.
It's cool, nice target in mezzo. Just gonna be close to out of view, but right close into the sonar on the port side. Just can barely make it out there. Visually, perhaps.
Is that a rock right there?
Visually or on?
It's gonna be
Right.
both, yeah. I can't tell if that one's if the visual part is part of it, but there it is in the port side on the side scan.
It's like,
Oh, sorry.
no.
I was just
yeah, we're just,
Yeah, I was just looking to see how many meters per division.
right. Oh.
10.
Eric is very excited about the big Apollo weekend, and even more so about the new exhibit.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the Apollo's in 4 days? Is that right? Was it the 20th of July that they landed on the moon?
Yes, the 20th.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all this week we're kind of competing with space.
Yeah.
50th anniversary
Yeah,
celebration.
commemorative days,
Right.
and celebrations.
I have a photo, I think I mentioned this the other day. There's a plaque at the Smithsonian commemorating the fact that
Another target there.
they took a piece of the
That looks
Wright brothers
definitely-
plane.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
to the moon in the
will
Apollo
be
command
target
You
module.
mentioned
39?
that, yeah.
Target
There's a plaque that
39
has
gets
those
it
pieces.
80.
Oh.
And there's a
To
letter
port.
from the Kitty Hawk Museum certifying that they came from that plane. And there's a letter signed by Neil Armstrong certifying they took him to the moon.
Wow.
And that's one of the things I would love to be able to go to Smithsonian and actually see that. You probably
39,
38.
have that.
38.
I thought, did you say 38, Peyton?
39.
Oh, sorry about
39.
that.
Just double checking if my last number was wrong. No worries.
Keep you on your toes.
Bridge nav.
And for the Apollo anniversary, I was
We'll
at the,
proceed to the selected target and hold position there.
Okay,
Thank you.
sort of like twin.
the U.S. Rocket Center
Shadow?
was planning
F-16s. Looked like two
big-
F-16s to me.
like Guinness Book World Records, like attempt at like the most rockets launched simultaneously.
Oh.
Yeah. I think they're doing like some 1,000 of them.
A friend of mine's at the Intrepid, Mike Fink, if you're watching right now. Hello. And thanks for watching.
Excellent.
How long until that target, Sir Rene?
The one that we're going to go directly over?
Yeah.
Probably 20 minutes, 15, 20.
Roger.
Thanks for tuning in, Mike from Amarillo. I did have a question, excuse me, come in that, let's say, for example, there was a large school of fish or something like that, some large biological sample. Would that show up in the sonar?
It would. And there would be shadow.
I actually think that we saw that in one of our very first watches, and I was describing to Peyton exactly why the shadow was so disconnected from the return.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what we're going to go with, right?
Yeah.
Being in Samoa has made me want to reread. There's two great books by a Dutch author about living in the tropics. One's about living in Vanuatu, I think. And then he and his wife, partner, moved to Fiji. They expect their first child. And unfortunately, not titles I can repeat here, but
Yeah.
Martin van Oots maybe is the author. Where are books on here?
See, now in addition to Lonnie's book, I have like a list of like 4 or 5 recommendations that people have given me on this watch alone.
You know what I do when I get a recommendation, I write it down. I think Trevor has picked up this habit. Is I write down what like movie they say to see or whatever, and then I write down who recommended it, so then I can get back to them.
Yeah.
Like like last year, I recommended to Trevor that he watch a film, and we were having lunch yesterday. He's like, "Hey, I just watched whatever." I forgot I'd recommend it. I was like, "Oh, that's a good call," and we got to discuss it. So it's a good habit to do.
Didn't Robert Louis Stevenson have a house up in the hills in
Yep.
Samoa?
Samoa, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a museum,
Yeah,
and I think it has his grave as well. on
maybe.
site.
Yes, believe so.
We'll accept that answer.
It's target in the meso.
So to answer the question that just came in about
Oh,
Very in. That's not the
Jinx.
answer to the question.
Sorry.
Well, we don't know. Maybe it is the answer to the question.
About a lot of research prior to performing scans in the area. This 2 square mile search area we're currently going through and scanning was researched heavily by Lonnie. And Lonnie can give some more details if she'd like about it, but she has a talent for sifting through the archives.
I'm not sure what the actual question is.
Oh, it was just about do you do a lot of research prior to performing scans in this area?
Yes, absolutely. An expedition like this involves so many people,
Is that what-
logistics, money, so forth. You can't even begin to embark upon something without doing your homework. So it involves a lot of time researching the documents, finding the original documents, talking to people, and reconstructing the whole concept before you can even begin a plan for going out to search for something. So the answer is definitely yes.
Thanks. And to answer that second part of that question, that was about if we anticipate finding other things. We don't ever anticipate any of that. However, that doesn't mean it's not possible. So that's the great part about underwater exploration, is you all are, if you're watching the Argus camera, are probably joining us, and we're the first people to probably ever set eyes on this part of the particular ocean seafloor. So you never know what might be there.
Isn't there a TV program called Drain the Oceans? And you never know what you're going to find.
Yeah.
I know even living on a lake, people used to take their old boats out and sink them, or just dump their cars in the lake, and there are all sorts of things that we wouldn't put in there anymore, but things to discover.
I actually hope that there might be an aircraft case coming up soon on the Drain the Oceans program.
So going back quickly to that book series I was talking about that really captures living in the tropics, which I think everybody idealizes. The author's name is just J period, and then the Dutch Marten, M-A-A-R-T-E-N, Troost, T-R-O-O-S-T.
Okay.
So look those up.
Yeah.
Book titles that I won't share here, but they're very interesting.
Martin Troost.
That last target, or that last spot, looked pretty rock-like.
Yeah, I wasn't liking that.
Yeah.
I'm feeling the magic.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see whatever, if we can, this
Yeah.
target in front of us.
So close. So when we come up on it, even if it is a rock, will this kind of serve as a great benchmark for looking back at some of those other dive targets?
It'll
To help
be
narrow it
nice.
down?
It'll be nice. We have the side scan sonar image. Of it,
There's a 90-degree angle.
and we have the image in front of us from Argus Cam. So it's a good thing to compare.
But yeah, if we have an object of interest that looks like that, and then we can go and ground truth one of them, that might inform the others.
Oh yeah, we went around the south, and I don't know why. I thought we would too, but oh well. It's still accurate.
What's that back there?
Oh no, we were just discussing the path
I've
we took.
Seen
Yeah.
other things
Yeah,
that
that's what I
look
was looking at.
similar to that, though. I'm not feeling, especially not given what's around it.
It's not very compelling.
No. And that's the funny thing, as we get to know this area a little bit better, especially on our watch, as we go up and down the line, we get to know what we start to see when we come back into these areas of rocks. Like when we're coming down this towards this side, towards the west side, we always start to see these sort of alien hieroglyphics where it has no shadow and it makes these sort of weird things on the seafloor. And then we know the areas that have the really high rocks and then the lots of rocks.
Yeah.
So I think we've seen this type of stuff before in this area on other lines.
Some interesting discussions this morning about the path forward, all the difficult decisions that entails.
Well, we've now got a lot of targets. We've got maybe 3 or 4 or 5 targets that look very different, very kind of cool.
I wonder if you could stitch those together into north-south-ish lines.
Rennie, we'll take this one too.
Okay.
All right.
90 to port.
Target 40.
But then we've also got a lot of targets now that look extremely similar.
Right.
And so, of course, we can't have 40 aircraft targets that look exactly the same.
Yeah.
So
you could almost eliminate them by their quantity and similarity, you think?
You know?
Where you look at 1 or 3 of them?
Yeah, and start to see what those actually are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always a learning process.
Yeah. Especially in a new area.
Which
I mean, as you get to know the signatures of the things in this particular area.
Maybe we could use a time portal and jump back to the day we left port and cheat a little.
Just a little.
There's that weird, interesting sci-fi movie about the American aircraft carrier goes through a time portal and they find themselves and they finally deduce that it's like December 1st, right before Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
And they're just off Hawaii.
Huh.
And they could stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that one.
Oh, that's a big boulder.
Big rock.
That's a rock.
You can just pick up the edges of it and no, that can't be right. Maybe. No.
So, Megan, how would you describe that last target?
Oh.
Is that what we're seeing in the nadir now?
Yeah, that's what I was curious about, if that bright spot on the port side was actually this boulder.
The same thing.
Well, I mean, it's like 60 meters wide.
But that would be
separated.
That would be like,
yeah, that'd be pretty
structure.
wide. So it could have been something else near it. But that little bit, the little wispy bit in the nadir, that could be it.
Wispy's a great description for that.
If that's what you were talking about,
Yeah.
then yeah, that could be it.
so not like using a magnetometer wouldn't help us, would it? For like
Bridge
aluminum?
nav.
Not
the
for
engines.
aluminum, but for the engines, yes.
We can hold position here. Thank you. Alright, Summer, so the ship's stopping.
Roger.
Are we at the end of that line already?
The ship is past the end of the line. Argus is still approaching the end.
So for the viewer who asked the question about the sonar, you are correct. That does have two different frequencies. The Edutech side scan sonar, our 4200, that is on Argus, does emit two different frequencies, and we do get one that does not go the same distance, which is the one that you see in yellow, but has a bit of a higher resolution, and the one below it in blue that is a bit of a lower resolution, but does go 120 meters or so on the starboard and port side. Dr. Megan, we have a question coming in that you might be well suited, or Lonnie, to answer. And this one's from Scotland. Do you know of any records of maybe aircraft dump sites in deep water following World War II?
Yes. We know that aircraft were dumped, but probably what happened more often than not is that they were loaded onto the aircraft carriers, or sorry, not aircraft carriers, they were loaded onto vessels that went out and were told to dump them deep sea, but probably dumped them a lot closer into shore. There's actually a very well documented dump site in the Pacific Islands somewhere that was photographed by a scuba diver named Brandy something, and she did a lot of really nice images of this dump site. And then there's also a dump site that we know of over in Saipan that has some cool things in it from after the war, but they turn out to be more shallow than extremely deep water.
So people just kind of maybe cut some corners, we'll say?
I think so, yep. Without knowing the circumstances myself, I think that that happens. We know that there's, for instance, there's, in Hawaii, there are some, it's not mustard gas, but it's some sort of very toxic thing that we produced that then we got rid of, and it is now leaking over in Hawaii. And so they're monitoring that. That's one of the Hawaii Undersea Research Lab, or HURL. That's one of their jobs, is to monitor these leaking sites that we did from after World War II.
Starting to change his heading around now.
We're close, but not there yet.
Correct, yeah.
No.
No.
No, we can. You can get to everything on Ship House. But we're not using Webb's R2R thing. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. There's a, yeah. Go to the Ship House website and then work your way down from there. Yeah.
Thanks for the question from Nashville, and it's whether will we know we found the the Samoan Clipper immediately, or will we revisualize things? And I can answer that question, or Dr. Megan, or...
Well, I think, and feel free to chime in here too, but I think that We hope that we're going to be able to know it absolutely automatically. We hope that there's that holy crap aha moment. But it may so happen that we look through our target database, do some post-processing, and then say, oh, you know what, that actually looks, that looks pretty interesting. And then we run over it, and that turns out to be it. So can happen either way.
Yeah, I think the only way we'd probably necessarily know for sure is if it was in that very small, limited scope as we were passing over that we see with Argus.
Well, we don't know, because if we haven't seen it yet,
Yeah.
and it's very airplane-like in the side scan, then we may know there then too.
That's true.
It's hard to say without, because we don't have a
We don't have a benchmark
confirmation
or
yet.
anything.
Yeah, we don't have a benchmarker in this area. So it could be very obvious in the side scan, and we'll know immediately. We also don't know what kind of shape the plane is in. We don't know if it's intact.
Right.
We don't know much.
I'm just a skeptic of anything that's a straight line,
Yeah.
parallel or perpendicular to.
Yeah, yeah. It's good to be that way. So we're kind of approaching the target 6. Keep in mind that the target, the way that the target's dropped is a bit, and our erratic USBL right now, it's we may not cross over it exactly as planned, but not seeing much in the meso at the moment. Yeah, you can see that the USBL is getting a bit fuzzier. That's because our brow thruster is working to change our heading right now. So I believe that we're still on track here, like that.
Right.
Somewhere in here.
Yeah,
There's no reason to believe we would have changed our...
no.
I don't know about the rest of the science team, but I'm very tense with anticipation.
Well, that boulder we just last passed over, I doubt it would have been that one. That one was a bit farther out. But I'm not seeing anything in the meso that would indicate where...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should have been seeing it by now, yeah.
It's hard to say. Shakedown. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
We do a calibration every shakedown. What's that? Similar to last year. I don't remember them, they're written down, but a small acceptable donut. That's what we believe. And the only way you know it's a donut is by tracking it as you change heading, because once you look at it after that, the noise actually takes over and it looks just like noise, but you can tell there is a trend, a donut trend. Of the track length, I forget, it's something.
What this object here on the
2%
left?
of water depth or something.
Yeah, that's...
No, that doesn't sound right.
That's
Maybe it's 5. I
interesting.
can't recall what it was. I'll have to look.
Probably going to take that target.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Port side, 100.
That could be what it is.
That's 100 meters out.
Maybe that's what we saw before.
Oh, right.
Because this is to the left of us.
Still,
that's target
100
41.
meters.
Yeah,
away,
that doesn't make sense for it to be the same thing, unless it was misdropped, which is entirely possible, because by the time, if the target's at the bottom of the screen with the USBL.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't seen anything on the
Offset.
sonar other than that on the meso either. When we're passing it.
Direction, we're still moving southwest.
But
That's a good point, Rennie, because that might affect if we want to go back and look at some of these targets. It might not be as simple as going to that point in high pack and dropping down.
yeah,
Might take some searching to find
I'll
it.
give you an example in 1 second here. Sorry, that was 4-1.
Even if it's 1%
Hey,
at 3,000 meters.
4-1.
Still
That's significant error.
some
Yeah.
Target 41.
Yes, target 41.
Yeah, so let's presume those were the same targets. They didn't look, the images didn't look the same.
Let me pull up target 6.
Yeah.
So that was 6?
6, yeah.
No, they didn't look
They
the
don't
same.
look the same, yeah.
Really?
No.
So do you think that turn actually pulled us offline?
No.
It looks like we're still tracking in the
We're-
same direction.
Yeah. No, that didn't pull us offline.
Okay.
I know what happened. I think. But yeah. It seems excessive though. I'm gonna think that one through. But see, we have to remember we're at 3,000 meters depth, and Argus is laid back 500 meters. So our USBL error is going to be actually, even if the error of the USBL is 1% water depth, that's 30. So. But that's enough for us to do a search pattern, obviously. But the slant, yeah. So I think that if you see the offset of those lines right there, I think that's due to our 90+ degree heading change.
Yeah, buddy.
Yes, sir. At this depth, yeah. At this depth, that far away. Surprised.
You could see it walking when
Yeah,
he came
yeah.
around.
Direction is still the same.
Have you, you don't have any CTD data either, do you? Or where are you getting that?
No, we just got, well, we have a sea chest.
the-
So we're doing surface, usually for USBL, we do a surface measurement and then a
There's no cast? You
harmonic mean.
haven't
No,
Stuck one of the little gizmos over?
no, we can.
Don't we
No.
have the little,
We do.
the gun you have to put on the safety glasses and
Oh, yeah.
the life preserver,
Yeah.
the hearing protection?
Bridge nav. Can we head towards the selected target? Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Rock, rock.
Zooming in. Yep, still rocks. Whoop.